The entire city was invaded by a mysterious force and turned into a ghost town within days. Anyone who opened their eyes would die in a bizarre manner. A father and daughter, wearing blindfolds, search for food by the street. Suddenly, they hear the sound of wheels rolling. Casa determines someone is approaching. Unsure if they are friend or foe, he tells his daughter to hide first. Then he asks to join the approaching group. Casa hasn't eaten for days, but in this apocalyptic world, who has the heart for charity? These people quickly turn down his plea for help, forcing Casa to reveal his identity as a killer. He knew of a place where a generator was stored, which immediately, while they were discussing whether to take Casa in, a sinister wind suddenly blew. An invisible monster was approaching, causing everyone to panic. They decided to take Casa back to the camp first. Following the rope fixed to the cart, they quickly reached a parking lot. After confirming the gate was closed, they all removed their blindfolds. Casa saw a sign on the wall behind them that read, "Blindfolds required when exiting." Perhaps this is why they have survived until now. After dinner, everyone sat together sharing their experiences. A blind old man, still shaken, said that the legendary followers were even more terrifying than the monsters outside. They could open their eyes freely outdoors, and specifically targeted innocent survivors. The old man had to blind himself to avoid being caught by them. Casa quickly took a sip of hot soup to hide the strange expression on his face. In the dead of night, everyone was crowded in the bus, sleeping. When it was Casa's turn to patrol, he secretly took the car keys and headed straight to the driver's seat. The long-haired girl noticed and tried to stop him, but the driver's door was already locked. Casa immediately started the bus, floored the gas pedal, and sped towards the outside. The awakened group broke down the isolation door, but couldn't stop the nearly insane Casa. The bus shot out like an arrow, heading straight for the road outside. A man just stepped out of the carriage when an invisible monster approached. His eyes narrowed, and he immediately picked up a shard of glass, slashing his own throat. Nearby, Casa saw the rising golden light and was utterly mesmerized. The blind old man spoke of monster worshippers. Casa kindly extended a helping hand to the survivors who refused to open their eyes. The companion who was laughing and talking with him last night. As golden rays of light rose, Casa's daughter suddenly appeared, encouraging her father to continue saving the world. She said that once he succeeded, their family would be reunited. These words brought Casa's thoughts back to the day of the catastrophe. The TV news is reporting mysterious deaths happening nationwide. Casa feels something is wrong and plans to pick up his daughter from school. But as soon as he steps out of his office, his car is crushed by a falling pedestrian. Casa had no choice but to follow the chaotic crowd towards the subway station. The people here seemed relatively calm. Just as the man breathed a sigh of relief, a paper cup inexplicably slid past his feet. Following his gaze, he saw the stones on the tracks slowly rising. Realizing something was wrong, Casa quickly turned around and fled. Unfortunately, the passengers who didn't look away in time were not so lucky. As the subway was about to arrive, they all jumped off the platform. Casa narrowly escaped the subway station, feeling fortunate. The streets were even more chaotic than before, leaving the man deeply unsettled. In his panic, he rushed to the school, relieved to find his daughter unharmed and hiding in a corner. Just as they were about to leave, a sudden explosion erupted ahead. Casa had no choice but to hide with her daughter in the church. The priest there seemed disturbed, mumbling that faith is believing in the unseen. He said it was time to welcome the arrival of God. Casa angrily called him a fraud, saying she only cared about her daughter's safety. She then covered her daughter's eyes with her coat. The father and daughter finally arrived downstairs at their home. Casa's wife had already prepared the vehicle. The family planned to escape the city, but just as the wife turned around, Casa's plan to leave the city had to be put on hold. The father and daughter huddled in the church, too afraid to go anywhere. After days and nights of praying, he seemed to see a divine figure beckoning him. Just after celebrating his daughter's birthday, a group of bandits suddenly broke in. When Casa wakes up again, he and his daughter have been taken to the rooftop. The leader is the church priest, who has somehow become a follower of the monster. He draws a single eye on the girl's forehead and forcibly opens her eyes. With her pupils changing color, Casa watched helplessly as her daughter jumped off the rooftop. Overwhelmed by immense rage, he was about to confront the priest when a gentle breeze suddenly blew by. Casa's eyes lost their original color, and as he loosened his clenched fists, his deceased daughter reappeared. Casa not only became a follower of the monster, but also manifested an illusion of his daughter. She seemed like the evil thoughts in his heart, constantly tempting him to harm innocent survivors. Casa firmly believed that if he could absolve enough souls, his family would be reunited. That day, he targeted a new prey. Just as he was about to approach, a hound suddenly dashed out. It turns out the other side also has a large team. Casa once again uses his old trick, claiming to know where a generator is. Sensing the monster's approach, these people have no time to think and have to take Casa back to their camp. Unlike before, the impatient member of the team wanted to find the generator that very day, giving Casa no chance to act. Casa had to change his strategy and admitted he lied. There was no generator. If he didn't say this, he would have to wander outside forever. The others were so angry they wanted to throw Casa out immediately. At this moment, a little girl named Sophia stopped the angry crowd. She had been separated from her mother some time ago while they were heading to an absolutely safe refuge. It was a castle built on a high mountain, accessible only by an aerial tramway. Everyone thought this was the best place to avoid the monsters. At this point, they couldn't care less if they decided to set off early the next morning. Casa felt secretly pleased. That night, he quietly cut a slit in the guide dog's leash. The next day, as they set off, invisible monsters gathered around. Everyone felt a strong sense of unease. The guide dog barked frantically and easily broke free from the leash. The group instantly became like headless chickens. The impatient one immediately took off the blindfold. In the next moment, he crashes into the car window. Casa watches everything excitedly, getting one step closer to reuniting with his family. One of the guide dogs breaks free from its blindfold and ends up getting hurt too, biting its elderly owner. Fortunately, someone finds a shelter and calls everyone to come closer, saving their lives just in time. Casa pretended to be scared, while the woman in red, Anna, was even more terrified. These monsters are everywhere, like devils. The man in yellow is a seasoned physics professor. He analyzed the monsters from the perspective of quantum mechanics. Before being observed, they could take any form. When people notice the monsters, they transform into what each person wants to see. Anna nodded in agreement. Just outside, she heard the voice of her deceased brother calling. Beside her, Casa was stunned, feeling his understanding of the world being shaken like never before. Passing by a house, he saw Sophia crying in a corner, and an inexplicable sense of familiarity surged in his heart. Unconsciously, Casa gave her the necklace that belonged to his daughter. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the hall. The white-haired dog owner's injury had flared up, and antibiotics were needed for treatment. Everyone began searching the entire building blindfolded. Casa saw another chance to cause trouble. He opened the room's curtains, tricking the professor in yellow to remove his blindfold, and the professor was immediately affected. Casa's expression was no longer as excited as before. At this moment, Anna heard the commotion and walked into the room. The daughter urged her father to continue, but this time Casa didn't comply. After causing a death, he didn't see the rising light orb. The daughter concluded that her father's faith had wavered, all because of Professor Huang's statements about the monster. The group gathered their gear and set off again. But before they could take a few steps, they encountered a monster worshipper. Casa quickly led everyone to run back. The white-haired dog owner at the back was hit by a motorcycle. His wife couldn't bear to leave him behind and took off her blindfold along with him. A breeze blew, and Casa hurriedly led everyone into a room. After Anna removed her blindfold, she was surprised to find that Casa's blindfold actually allowed him to see. It turned out to be just a tool to gain trust. Thinking of her brutally killed teammates, Anna instinctively took Sophia away from this monster's follower. The two quickly reached the rooftop, but there was no way forward. At this moment, Casa also caught up. Under his daughter's manipulation, he tried several times to remove Sophia's blindfold. However, when he saw the necklace on her neck, Casa finally realized that his daughter was already dead. No matter what he did, the family could never be reunited. Casa pulled the two back to the stairwell, expressing his guilt. He admitted that he was heartbroken over his daughter's death and had been misled by the priest, committing many mistakes. He vowed to make amends. Suddenly, there was a noise downstairs. The priest and his followers were coming. Casa quickly led the two to jump off the rooftop. They found a car, floored the gas pedal, and sped towards the mountain castle. Seeing the cable car in the distance, Casa parked the car at the gate and told Anna to take Sophia and leave first. He decided to stay behind to delay the priest's pursuers. After speaking, he ignited the car's fuel tank. Although a few followers were killed in the explosion, the priest at the back was unharmed. With a heavy heart, Casa thought of his murdered daughter and decided to end it with the old man. Meanwhile, Anna had already climbed the iron tower with Sophia. Before the monster could catch up, they managed to jump into the moving cable car. At this moment, Casa saw his daughter walking towards him through the flames. He was convinced it was an illusion and charged forward with a steel bar. To his surprise, it was the despicable priest. The priest, who despised Casa for his betrayal, was equally determined to fight. Both ended up lying in a pool of blood. Before dying, Casa looked at the moving cable car with relief. He finally did something good. When the cable car doors opened, Anna saw a large number of armed personnel at the entrance. It turned out that the refuge castle had long been occupied by the authorities, housing many survivors, including Sophia's mother. Anna was truly surprised by this. They have conducted in-depth research on the invisible monsters. They extract the blood of the monster's followers to try to overcome the scientific challenge of dying upon seeing them. However, judging by the current progress, it seems there's still a long way to go. That's the content of Bird Box 2. This movie is a spin-off of the first one, set in the same universe, but in a different location. The only fresh element is the change in the protagonist's identity.